ART. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another segment of Straight Talk with Grover Thornton. As I've always told you, this program is designed to educate, inspire, and to inform you how government works, state, local, and national, how it impacts our lives. Tonight, I want to start off by saying I do know I'm very happy about the midterm election. Got to speak on that. Got to speak on it. I sat up to 4 o'clock the other night watching it, and I was just elated about the election, especially when all three people who were Secretary of States from several, the remember Secretary of States from several states, who were supporters and great believers in the big lie. Worst thing in the world that ever happened in this country. Like I said from the very beginning, several months ago, this man, Trump, is a terrible disease. He's a cancer on this nation. And I'm happy that the people stood up for democracy. They're tired of his foolishness. Even a lot of his allies have turned on him. You watch the TV, you see, but a lot of them are still afraid to, except one man was saying how the Republican Party spent all his money doing one thing and did not help him, which I'm glad he did because he lost. I'm glad he did that because he lost. And maybe the people could wake up and see how terrible this man has been. This man has been impeached twice. This man has organized a coup. They plotted that before the election. In case I lose, this is what we're going to do. And now he was talking about running for president. I think now that has dimmed completely out of the question. Now, I'm waiting to see what he says on the 15th of this month. But I want to say this, that I'm pleased. Now, hopefully, the Democrats, they knew that they were going to lose the House of Representatives, but they still have not lost because beginning last night, the man said there were about 21 races in the House of Representatives still have not been finalized, but they have a lead of 220 and the Democrats 215. But normally, the president that's in office when they had the midterm, President Obama took a terrible defeat in the midterm. That he used the word that the organization, the Democrats took a shellacking. So that was terrible. So, but look what we did for the Senate. We still may be able to pull that Senate out. We have only two more states, Georgia and Nevada. I was happy when Mr. Kelly won. I sat up late, and when finally thing came that he would not be able to lose that race, I was elated. And of course, we have two more to go, and that is Georgia and Nevada. Now, Ms. Cortez was trailing Mr. Laxford, I believe his name is something like that, about 800 something votes. But the part of the votes that was to come in was located in the area that's normally Democratic. So that's what we're hoping, if she would pull that out. And then when she does, that happens to her, then she will be able to win that seat in the Senate. And we would not need Herschel Walker's seat, but I'm going to get to him later. I'm hoping that when that we should know about that by Monday, I understand that there were over 200-something thousand votes that was in that cluster. And hopefully she will be winning enough votes to win that office. I hope so. And the Democrats will be again in charge of the Senate. And I like to say these young people really got out in this country and voted. And all these people about the freedom of the woman's reproduction issues. And I'm so glad that women got out, because that's a personal thing between a woman and her God. And nobody has the right to tell her what to do with her body. And I'm so pleased that took over, and the people really came out. In particular, the young people say, they were saying, one commentator said that they have not seen so many young people out in many, many years. And I'm very happy, because they should get involved in government. They should get involved in making decisions. Sometimes people say, oh, my vote don't count. Yes, it does. And I'm happy to say I couldn't stand in the poll because of my medical problem I have on breathing, but I did send my ballot in. But my grandson and my son went immediately Tuesday and voted. So all of that counted. And I'm so sorry that Stacey Abrams lost that job as the governor. She would have been a superb governor. But it's hard when you are running for office and you have hard money against you. These are big corporations with all these people making all this money, and they pile that money in to these people, like Governor Kemp, like Ms. Abrams said. Now, look at this. How can anybody would vote for? Let's look at an area. I think she said it was 4 or 5 hospitals that was closed under Governor Kemp in the rural areas. Closed. That shows he doesn't care anything about them. That lady was talking about so many other things that she wanted to do if she was elected governor. 140,000 people right here in the state of Georgia does not have any health insurance at all. And what did the Biden administration wanted to do? They would support Medicaid for 2 years at government expense. And then after 2 years, the state could pick it up. Well, the state could pick it up by making these corporations pay taxes like they should. But that shows you, well, like Jesus told you that people don't care about poor people. It's sad to say. It's sad to say. And kept understanding a filthy rich man, and he did this and he did that, all the things that they were saying. And we lost a good person. Would have been an outstanding governor. I was so pleased to see that Mr. Moss, I think his name was, won the governorship in Maryland. That was history. And I was hoping and praying that Mr. Mandela would have won that race in Arizona. I think it was Arizona. But he lost to Mr. Johnson. Wisconsin, Arizona, one of the two. And he lost to Mr. Johnson, Senator Johnson, a lady, a gentleman who was supporting with all these people and a big lies of Trump and against the abortion issue. So hopefully we win this control of the Senate. Then they will be able to pass a constitutional amendment and make the right to reproduction a law of the land for women. And that will be a great reward for you all coming out. Now, let me just speak now on a moment or so on to talk about our senator, the Reverend Walnut, and the gentleman, Mr. Herschel Walker, whom the Republicans are supporting. Now, I'm straight. That's the name of my show. It's Straight Talk. And I say things that I know to me is proper. Number one, they went out and grabbed this man to run against another black man. And these white folk who picked him, they know in their heart this man is unprepared. This man is not qualified. He doesn't know the first thing about government. He does not. And he's a liar above all liars. He lied and said he worked with the police department in Cobb County. That was a lie. He worked with the FBI. That was a lie. He graduated from the University of Georgia. That was a lie. Now he would talk about the women that with the abortion. He's against abortion because he's doing what the white folk told him to do. He would have been a pawn if he wins this race. That's why whether or not we win with Ms. Cortez to get control of the Senate, we still want everybody to get out and vote and let the Republican Party know that they cannot just throw a black man in their face because he's black and think black folk are going to support it. And I'm telling these black folk who supported him, you ought to look at yourself. First thing, look at the thing that Mr. Warnock has already done. And Walker has audacity to say it's about family. Is he kidding? A downbeat dad, baby's over here, baby's over there, baby's over yonder. And his own son get up on national TV and ridicule him? I'd have been too ashamed to show my face. He's a pawn for the Republicans. And I wish I could see some of these white women. I'll ask them, you for him, you do he's this, he's that. Would you let him date your daughter? Would you let him take your daughter to dinner? Would you invite him to your home? Yes, he was a great football player in Georgia, no question about that. But he was like a cow with a whole bucket of milk and turn around and kick it over. I've never known him to come to the University of Georgia and talk to football players. Have you? I have never read anything where he was invited to speak at the University of Georgia. The man has no character. The man has no dignity about himself. Now, all these black kids in Georgia, do you think I want my grandson to emulate him? He's a disaster. And I want to say again, when he got into the National Football League, he was no superstar. He was just an average player. Because when he got there, he found out people were better than him, smarter than him, as far as the game is concerned. And he got knocked down so many times in the head, he's wacky. We don't need no man like that representing Georgia. It'll be a disgrace. So I don't want nobody to say, well, if we win this Cortez election and the Senate is now in the hands of the Democrats, well, we don't need to go after Walker. No, we need to go out and still vote to show him that we're not going to let white folk throw him against another black person and say, we're all right with that. So don't take that attitude if we win the right to the Senate and say, well, we already won the right to the Senate, so that's the way we go to vote. No, that'd be immaterial as far as the Senate's concerned. But what about our pride as black people? We don't need him to represent us. He had the audacity, as I said before, about family. Deadbeat dad. And that white woman got on the TV, said she went with him for 6 years, and he encouraged her to have an abortion. How that man lie so much? Like a friend said to me one time about a lie. He said, no. And I said the same thing. I know two liars, and Herschel Walker's both of them. My. But here's what our great President Obama said. He had to break the ice, and I thank God he did. I never dreamed I'll see a black president. All the work I did in the civil rights movement, laying in the streets. The young people don't know what that is. The next time I have a meeting, I hope I can find it. I'm going to show y'all a fountain that they wanted black folk to drink out of, I guess what the white folk had to drink out of. And all the water coming through the same pipes. But here's what President Obama said about the Reverend Distinguished Warnock. And I'm going to read this from when things came in the mail to me about President Barack Obama. Here's what he says. Reverend Warnock is a man of great moral integrity, a leader in the truest sense of the word. President Barack Obama, a great leader, broke the ice. It's like I look at football all the time, and I want, I always give a book review, and I'm reading the book review about Mississippi. Now, and Georgia's playing Mississippi State tonight as I speak to you, and Alabama was playing Ole Miss. And the thing I'm going to talk about next month is the old book I'm reading about Ole Miss when James Meredith tried to integrate that school. My God, my Lord. What I would tell you about some of the things in that book next month. Now, I wanted to bring this out tonight about the election because I do want you to go to the polls, and let's just hope. Let's just hope that Ms. Cortez will win that election. But I don't want you to stay home. Please. We don't want that man representing Georgia. We'd be the laughing stock of the nation. We don't need an ignorant man like that man with no decency, no character, no nothing. All righty, so that's over there. I want to get turned to a situation that's happening in Savannah. I was calling on Mrs. Pat Gunn, who one of the leaders initiating this movement to change the square, named after John Calhoun. And he was a vice president in the 1800s. He was very smart. I read about him. And here's a book right here. When I say something, I have the material to back it up. I just don't say something I can't prove. And that was, here's this right here. Now, you see what it says? A history of a free people that was used in some of the schools. Now, black folk weren't all that free now. So I don't go too much with the title. Because we had to become a citizen of this country after all that coming in here in 1619, working, like Lincoln said, toil without pay. Working from sundown to sunset at night, working for nothing. Over 250 years almost for nothing. And then after that, we had the problem in the 1800s with the Dred Scott case. And after that, the 1896 state, the separate but equal. How much more we will have to suffer in this country? And we still suffer. Look at the redistricting. Look at the redistricting. In Texas, they redistricted three areas immediately. And it caused us to have a problem electing Democrats. Excuse me just a second.
If I keep on.
Hold on, just got a little technical problem. We're trying to correct it. Causing that. Now, is it coming on to tell me now?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can talk now?
Yep, you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the little inconvenience. Sometimes that happens. And we all know, I'm sure, all of us have sat and watched the television, and all of a sudden you look at something very important and it goes off, and we have to wait to get it back on. So thank you very much. And I apologize for that little inconvenience. I was about to say about the square in Savannah. There are 22, understand from Ms. Pat Gunn, who was supposed to be here tonight to really give it the background. She's been working with the city of Savannah to rename this square after John Calhoun. He was a very smart man, no question about that. He was from South Carolina, but he was an individual senator, and he ran for the vice presidency during the 1800s. And he was a dying supporter of slavery. And the reason why I showed you that, but we did not become a citizen of this country to 1868, when the 14th Amendment to the Constitution was passed, when it said all persons born and naturalized in the United States are therefore citizens of the states in which it resides, and forbid Congress to do anything to interrupt you from having that citizenship. So all the courts we went through with Thurgood Marshall and NAACP, Thurgood Marshall went to the federal courts 32 times. They won 29 cases. One of the greatest constitutional lawyers the country ever produced. And then they raised hell. They want them a man to get on the Supreme Court when President Johnson appointed him to the Supreme Court. I don't understand what more they want black citizens to do. Every war that they've ever had. In fact, the first black man died in the Revolutionary War was a man named Christopher Adams, Massachusetts. Check it out for yourself. The Revolution, the American Revolution, 1776, when we had the Revolution, won the Revolution, a black man. So when talking about Mr. Calhoun, about this square in Savannah, Georgia, they want to name this square after a lady named Susie King Taylor. She was a woman during the Civil War and all that. She was like a nurse. And after all, she educated black people to read and write. She was real instrumental. And they want to change that square, ladies and gentlemen, because that square is a cemetery where black slaves are buried. And they got a racist man, a supporter of slavery. The square is named after him. That was done in, I don't know what year that was done. When Ms. Gunn get on the program, she's going to give you all the background, what the city attempted to do about it. I could say something she told me about what the city is doing, but I'd rather for her to be here next month to tell you. But this part of them is giving you the background about the square. But that same square where all our black citizens from slaves that worked all their life for nothing are buried. Think about it. And you talk about single families, where white folks started single families, separate the child from the mama, all of that, broke up families. What do you call that? That ain't single families. All that was done to black folk, and we fought in every war they ever had. Everyone. And I was thinking about the man the other day that was reading about how he came out the military, a black man, somewhere down in Carolina, and he was on the bus. And I don't know what kind of confrontation he and the bus driver had, but the bus driver stopped the bus, got off the bus, called the next stop, talked to somebody. And when the bus got there, they pulled the black man off with the military uniform on, just got out of the army, fighting for freedom. And they beat him to death, took his head on and blind him, and made President Truman very, very upset, very mad. And Truman went on to integrate that army. That's what he did, integrate the army. We over here fighting for freedom for other people, and we didn't even have it in our own countries. Fight for freedom for other countries. Now, I'm going to show you, read this I just want to show you this, what they call a history of a free people. If it's free, why don't want me to vote? Why they pass all these restricted laws of blocking black people everywhere they can? Why? And how's that history of a free people? We got a little freedom, but you think that's freedom when you segregated laws? Then you riding. I can remember another young man riding down the road, going to Brunswick, Georgia with my family. That's my mother-in-law now. And we had to urinate. We had to stop the car like a dog in the street. A human being, a man, made in the image of Almighty God. And you got God on you, and God we trust on your money. Come on, y'all. This country got a lot to pay for. But I'll say this. When God gets tired of something, he makes a move. He makes a change. When you go back and you look at how Moses brought the children out of Israel, when God got sick of it, he heard their suffering. And he did something about it. I never dreamed we'd see this far. But I remember a young man, and I was a young boy, about 11 years old, a white man, a nice guy named Strickland. He had a store right there on 35th and West Broad. And I was talking to him one day. I always fought for civil rights. I always thought there was a difference. Why should there be a difference in the color of a man's skin if a person got the ability? All that thing about Savannah, they raised hell in the man's Grayson Stadium. His son ran for the legislature in Georgia. My daddy said N-word would never play football or baseball in that stadium. Well, he did. Jackie Robinson played in there because I saw him. He was the only black one thing on that field, but I saw him. And look at the suffering he had to go through. And look at Mississippi today, the football games. They used to say, oh, no black man can't be no quarterback. He don't have the brain to be no quarterback. Oh, I saw a black man playing Alabama today, named Young. And I'm going to professional football, all them great football players. And I go back with Doug Williams when he blew out I forget the team, in the first quarter of the Super Bowl. Anybody can do anything if you give them the ability to do it. The color of a race. Black folk are not no monolithic group. We got people do everything diverse. And back to this skunk Calhoun. I'm going to read you just a few words what he said about slavery. Here. Calhoun turned his great talents to showing that slavery in the South was, instead of an evil, a good, a positive good. You see that? You see him? History of a free people. But slavery, a positive good. Segregation, discrimination. Like in one book I'm going to get to one time about the South, that I had this book, 6 bought from the Salvation Army place, and I had got to that to show y'all yet, the things that was in it. 64 years I've had that book. And one man said, chattel slavery is gone, but long live wage slavery. That's all it's been, wage slavery. Black folk working can now take care of their families. I wonder how, like the one saying, Lord, how we got over. How black folk able to suffer with their children and provide and do. And that's what makes me get angry, real angry, when I know I see our young black men throwing themselves away with drugs. Drugs. Preying on old people. I got so mad when this Kanye West guy, whatever his name is, I don't have no respect for him, but anyway, he's a Trump man, and he pleaded with Trump to allow to release this lady on parole out of federal penitentiary for drugs. She wasn't no little person on the street. She was a kingpin. And how many people is she bringing all them drugs in, a lot of these young men to shoot and kill each other, pry on old people? I let her sit right there in jail for them 25 years for the lives she destroyed. And we got to keep our young people coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Your young boys, you got to train them. So many devices out there in the community now that will destroy you. And we have to do better. Now, I want to tell you that. Now, next thing on my show tonight is we have an election here next year. And I got a young man, he's in my fraternity. I'm an alpha. And speaking, I'm proud of being an alpha. Some of the greatest men, I'm a member of that organization that day I'm a member of. Dr. Martin Luther King was an alpha. Thurgood Marshall was an alpha. The great leader against Savannah, Georgia, Dr. Ralph Martin Gilmore was an alpha. Andrew Young was an alpha. Jesse Owens is an alpha. The late Senator Brooks was an alpha. He spoke, I saw him to hear him speaking in Washington at one of the conventions I went to. So this young man just lost his father, and we had what we call an Omega service for him last week. And He's going on a show tonight. How you bring him in here? Mr.
He's gonna come on in there.
Oh, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Robert Bryant. That's you? Where is he? Mr. Bryant, well, you look different than when I saw you the other night last week. Good to see you. First time I met you, there's so many alphas now that your daddy has gone to the Omega chapter. I am now the dean of the alphas, the oldest in age and in service, 63 years an alpha. And if I live to be on the 20th of next month, the Lord has been good to me. I'll be 89 years old. And God has still sustained me with a good mind because I gave all my life, my younger days, to make things better in my community. I had a chance to meet Dr. King, Thurgood Marshall, Miss Constance Mortley, who would have been the first Black woman on the Supreme Court instead of Miss Jackson. In fact, Miss Tanya Jackson gave her praise if it had not been for her death. I'm happy to have you on the show tonight. How you doing? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
That was my bad. Sorry about that. I was muted. And I'm producing. That's funny. But glad to be here. Thank you for having me. As a matter of fact, Dad's birthday is tomorrow. He would celebrate 95 years.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, I took your daddy's place.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the brothers came out very graciously the other night to honor him.
Yes.
Because he was one of the ones that we call the pearls that established a chapter at Savannah State College, in which I graduated from and where I joined the fraternity. We have a great fraternity, and other fraternities got great people now. I ain't saying that. We got great people in all of these fraternities, and we got a bunch of sorry ones too. But we thank God for all the good ones, and ones that are not doing well will follow those who are. But your daddy was one of our founders. And again, you have my sympathy. Now, let me ask you this. Tell me, Brother Bryant, why you want this? Oh, incidentally, I told you the other night when I found out that you I didn't know you. I can't know every alpha because I don't know everybody in Savannah. But a lot of people know me. I do know a lot of people. But tell me, why are you interested in this race to run for the
right
5th district, which I live in, as I told you the other night. I live in the 5th district.
Right.
Why? Tell me why you want me to vote for you.
Sure. It's going to be a lengthy answer, but I tell you one thing. It really starts at my roots, and you know as well as anyone that the 5th district is pretty much one of our more historic African American communities.
That's true.
And I tell people often that, folks like yourself, folks like mom and dad, they couldn't go in other areas of Savannah because of segregation and because they were not welcome. And so the 5th district has become the home where the area where blood, sweat, tears, every brick was laid by the residents that live here. I won't make an indictment on the current leadership, but I just feel like we need a stronger voice at the table, and we need to protect our legacy called the 5th district. We got this thing called SCAD, regentrification, knocking on our doors, and I just don't think that's something we want to do, and I don't think that's something we will do. It's kind of interesting that the Republicans want to take race out of classrooms, and the city of Savannah want to take Black folk out of the 5th district. Well, I have a different vision for that, and I just think it's time that we protect our culture, protect our community, and make sure that our voice is heard, because a lot of people may not realize, but the 5th district is also one of the more vocal and more engaged districts when it comes to voting and community engagement. So I just think we've got to make sure that we are at the table and not on the menu.
Okay, that's good. Now let me ask you this: what are some of the things that you is in your mind that you would like to see come to fruition in the 5th district that's not here?
Right. Well, the first thing that's glaring us in my face is we've got to stop this encroachment and regentrification effort. I'm not sure if you remember Mickey's that used to be on Montgomery and Victory Drive is now a piece of SCAD. And you
Oh
know,
yeah, Mickey. You always talking about Mickey Liquor Store?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
around the corner. Yeah.
right. Well, and I work in higher education, so I value higher education. I value acquisition of land, but I don't value them trying to take over Montgomery Street. I don't value SCAD trying to take Fowler Park or Camp Park and the other neighborhoods. I don't value that.
You can say
So
that
we
again
gotta-
now. Say that again about the Camp Park. I need.
Yeah,
to know
I don't agree with SCAD having free rights basically to take over those neighborhoods, and that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, hold up there on the SCAD thing there, sir.
Yeah.
Hold up there on the SCAD thing.
Yes, sir.
I have not done any research. I'm just, like I said, I read a lot and I engage in a lot of conversation and with intelligent people, but I can't know everything because I'm not a human being like anybody else. But I have been never able to understand, and whether or not this is true or not really, because I never researched it, that I was told that SCAD pays no taxes.
Well, when it comes down to it, I will say this much: I don't believe they pay taxes on the property, and so that's interesting in itself. And so, with that said, to allow them to have so much access to claim property becomes an interesting fact. As a matter of fact, it's my understanding from a source that a good chunk of Montgomery Street has also already been acquired by that institution. And so
you mean to tell me there's going to be more renovation on Montgomery Street? You're talking about Mickey's. Mickey's goes to Montgomery Street. I mean, I never saw so many great buildings go all the time. They'll go from Montgomery Street all the way down to Bonnet Street.
Right.
Now, you telling me there's some other areas of Montgomery Street that already has been acquired by them or will be acquired for more
and if you think
infrastructure?
About it, they got the old Neil Blum building. They got that small building right on the tracks.
Yeah.
It's only so much land that's still left, that AutoZone or whatever that parts place is. So it's a matter of time. And we've got to just make sure that we have someone at the table that's not afraid to say, well, that's not going to happen anymore. No. And I think I'm willing to do that. Well, I know I'm willing to do that.
Brother Bryant, they use this term very loosely. I don't know why they do it. Economic development. But they be using this economic development just like the late man was talking about on the TV this morning on the news when he went back to Reagan with this trickle-down economic mess here. And this country has never been fair with the distribution of wealth in this country.
Right.
People talk about supply chain. Look at Mobil and Exxon, the world's greatest producers of gasoline. They won't do no digging. And they want to say, but it's Biden. I get furious when I hear people say that. And like I said on my show last month, it's ignorance. People don't read. They don't understand. Gas shows up. We blame Biden for that. Like the man Belcher said last week. Well, I guess Biden is causing inflation in England. The lady wasn't in prime minister a month because of economic problems. They got Mr. Biden is causing inflation in Australia. He's causing it in the countries in Europe. Mr. Biden is causing inflation in all these countries in Europe because they don't understand. Like that man we got running, that ignorant man, Herschel Walker.
Mm.
You ask him right now, Mr. Walker, I got $120 in my pocket. I'll give it to anybody who ask him. Go up to him and say, Mr. Walker, will you explain to me about my Social Security, what do you mean by the CPI? He wouldn't even be able to tell you. We wouldn't even know what that stands for. I said, Mr. Walker, that stands for Consumer Price Index. And that affects how you get Social Security in raise. When the economy watch certain goods and services that goes up.
That's right.
He wouldn't know that. All you know, he's going to say what them white folk tell him to say. So the reason why I meant by that SCAD, because I heard that. And I know a lot. Now, see, the thing I have to really did some research on it. Do the private schools, where they pay taxes? I'm not talking about no charter schools because they're still under the board, which I don't agree with charter schools in any way. That's taking money away from the public schools. The public schools have been the backbone of this country.
I agree.
All the richest people, wisest people, there were public schools. And that was nothing but a certain segment for segregation among young people. Like when I read years ago about the civil rights struggle with Thurgood Marshall, they had so many talk about them sit down with the white children, the black children, said, well, let them all stand up. Or either take the dumb white children and the dumb black children, put them somewhere and put the smart black children and put the smart white children. But no, the separate but equal. There was always separate, but was never equal.
That's it.
In the opinion, like I was telling them on Biden versus Vote Education on this show one night, how they spending $2,000 something in Cannon County, South Carolina, on white children, and only $100, $200 on every black child. Where's the equal? Man, give me a break. I'll be going to my grave, but there ain't gonna be no justice. I'll get the justice when Jesus comes. But I can tell you this: God is sick of this world. But I was asking about Savannah because I just had so many things going on in our city government. It's very disturbing. Now, so if you had to pick up two things that you would love to be on your agenda,
right?
Tell me what they would be.
Well, definitely the first would be we've got to take a very close look, careful look at that fairgrounds project, number one.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another big thing.
We got to do that right. I don't believe in decisions that are made from what we call knee-jerk decisions. We got to stop, pause, do some research, get the community involved, and really have some tough conversations about what that piece of land should look like. And the other piece is making sure that we put resources in our communities. You know, I'm in my late mid-40s, and West Savannah and West Side Savannah have looked the same for years.
Say that again, brother. Say that again. West Savannah looks like a war zone.
West Savannah, because if you're from Savannah, you know it's West Savannah and West Side. But yes, both areas have been ignored.
But brother, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be very honest with you and very candid, and that is this: I wouldn't give a ham sandwich what city you go to. It would take you long to know that you're in the black area. All you gotta do is look.
Yeah. What happened?
Am I right or wrong?
You ain't kidding. You know what to look for. You're right.
You know you're in the black community because they have not even tried to put the resources there. They don't put, like Lyndon Johnson said one time, you want a black man to take care of his family, you don't pay him nothing, and then when they fight to try to get more, then you try to erupt violence upon him.
Yeah.
But if our leaders who are in position of government should do things, Savannah should be a rising place, sure enough, with all the leadership that we have. We got the majority of African Americans on city council. Is that right?
Look here. That would look like to me.
I mean, I may be wrong because I don't keep up with that. I'm mostly on the national thing, but I do care about my community. But I try to keep fighting with things, happen things like I was saying about this Calhoun thing.
Right.
I don't know why they can't go around and just change that thing, that woman, that thing. But I don't want to get into that. It's very disturbing to me when Ms. Pat Gunn told me about it. But I'm not going to discuss that because I told her evidently something happened. She couldn't come here tonight. But she was going to have a person to explain to the whole community, the whole situation on that square and the position the city take it. She told me about it, but I'm not going to discuss that. I just gave them a background about the square, that it's a cemetery, that they put that segregated man named on that square. I bet they would, if that was a bunch of Jewish people, they would not have done it.
Mm-mm. Well,
they would not have done it.
And I'm not going to go deep in that, but that's a great example of how some of our leaders sit on the fence. My answer to that is a no. I am an employee of Clemson. I know a lot about John C. Calhoun and his work. John C. Calhoun should not be on that square. And
should never been on there.
And we don't want his name, nor his initials, nor his last or first name anywhere near it. Nor do we want to acknowledge his history. It's a no. That's simple as that. I don't understand how our leaders can want to. Let's just.
And I tell you what I think I understand.
No, it's a no.
Let me tell you something else, but I don't understand, sir. And that is this. I was sitting watching TV one night in the news, and they showed this big old crane and this huge statue. I mean, tremendously huge, of Robert E. Lee. And they were bringing it down. Now, I was at a meeting last year with Ms. Gunn with her organization. and she has it's a bit of a white and black citizens, and we're going out the door, and the white man said to me, "Well, when are we going to take down those segregated things in Flag Park? Why?" I asked one of them guys one time, and he said, "Well, they got to go through the legislature." You think the legislature in Richmond did that? People raised hell. The leaders took positions in government. That's why it came down. Well, I was talking to my ex city manager. She and I are very good friends, Ms. Rochelle Tony. Talked to her last week. And she's retired now, and I'm so happy for her. And we were talking about Savannah and some of these same things that you're addressing that still exists. So, and that situation you were talking about the fairgrounds. I heard so many things about it, about the contracts, and about the situation wasn't right. I don't know the whole thing about it, but is this supposed to be with homes and businesses and all of that?
Well, it's so many perceptions out there about that project. And at the bottom line is, and again, I'm not going to point fingers or call name, but the bottom line is it should be a transparent process.
Should be a what now?
Transparent. So
yeah, of course.
Be,
Why must it be in the dark? Why
the city manager and the alderperson need to work collaboratively and design a plan that's going to include the public and have some real conversations with people who are living in that area.
Yeah,
now,
I agree.
Might not be able to give them everything they want, but you got to pull people to that's the problem now with government. We don't pull people to the table. We feel like we get these titles and we have the authority to do what we want, and we don't. Leadership is inclusive. Leadership is about.
And that, hey, I hate to say this, but that also applies in the churches too. You do things without getting permission from people. Don't get me started in that area.
Yeah,
but then I heard that a lot of that area at the fairground was oasis with land that you could build nothing on it. Is that so?
Well, I'm not going to speak on that. I'm not absolutely sure on that piece. However, I'm sure that we can reach an agreement that is not a win-lose. That's one thing. Another thing I look forward to being in a space where we can work collaboratively, compromise, and have win-win situations. Nowadays, we see in Washington and at the state level, I win, you lose. We gotta change that focus, because when someone loses, we all lose. So why can't we find a way to compromise?
Exactly. For the common good,
Right.
Yeah, for the common good.
How does it look? I'm sitting here eating and you hungry. That's crazy to me.
And then what that do? And what else does that do? It causes me to be violent, crime. I don't never see about no statistics of crime, and every time I've been asking about the poverty rate in Savannah, it's still that. The last thing I heard was when I was on a show with with my late friend Chester Dunham. When the city council position was open for a manager, and this gentleman came from someplace, was applying, and I asked him, "Well, sir, let me ask you a question. Since you've been doing this or doing that in city government, I think it was in Virginia, where it was," and I asked him on the show, "But tell me, sir, what is your poverty rate?" "Oh, we have a poverty rate around 32%. I said, "That same thing we got here. So you haven't done anything where you left." So that's why you keep hanging. I don't really think the citizens of Savannah are getting a fair shake. That's me. Now
and I'll tell you this: I went to Port Wentworth one day through Garden City the back way, and if you look at that port and the containers coming through that port, there is no way in the world we should have a poverty issue in this city.
Sure shouldn't.
The money that comes through Savannah, it baffles me. And but again, I think we gotta have people who advocate and who are willing to stand up and have those conversations and be at the table. I mean, you can't just step into a leadership role and just feel like you have arrived. You know, you got a constituency, and you got to represent that constituency and speak for them.
And another thing too, Brother Bryant, and that is our young people. Many of them, you have to have training programs so they can be very productive in the community and working and being trained with some type of job. But you got this drug problem. I remember when the first President Bush, he said these words, and I'm talking to Daddy now. This problem, this scourge is going to stop. The scourge never stopped. It got worse. I remember several years ago, right down there, and you talking about the container, right down there at the port. All this marijuana and drugs came out, cocaine, whether it came from someplace with nobody's name on it. Whatever happened to it? Somebody had to be the receiving person to get that drugs coming to this country.
Well, and I'll speak on there's three things with that issue. Is the first part is historically, if we look back, those substances were placed in our communities by the government purposely. We're just gonna start right there. We know this. That was a booby trap, and you could go back.
You could go back really during the Reagan administration out in Los Angeles, California. They took crack cocaine out there because Reagan and them was violated federal law by going in down in South America with the Santiagos.
Right.
And they needed money for weapons, and it took cocaine in Los Angeles, all these black people, and that's what happened.
Well,
he was not impeached for that either.
Well, and then they have this mysterious war on drugs. Let's take the word drugs out. I'm sorry, war on black people to put more black males in jail. That's what this whole system was about.
Of course, that's what it is. Yes.
And then now, mind you, now we are in a culture that has dealt with serious trauma for ages, and so mental health has been ignored. And so you have a number of our folks in our community that identify substances, alcohol, whatever, as a way to cope. And guess what? Now you're on probation, or now you're in the system, and we are taking what little money you have. And so we just, again, that's an area of reform that needs to happen. But again, you have people in leadership who just want to keep the man down, or keep, as we saw with George Floyd, unfortunately, they want to keep their knees on our necks. And we just got to have people in place that can advocate, understand. That's the thing, understand. We got so many leaders now that do not understand the pulse of the community.
So what about like for instance, sir, every day you ride around, you see all these people hustling money, or the sign, homeless. What's the city doing about it? Aren't we supposed to, the government is supposed to, one of the things I've seen that on my show, how government affects your lives. What are they doing about homelessness? There are a lot of issues that we're not addressing.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that point up. That's one of the things I don't talk about it a lot, but I really want to look at how can we expand our nonprofit reach? So how can we fund nonprofits that speak to homeless eradication, that speak to restoration of people who are in these camps? How can we support our nonprofits that are doing social good and helping people who just need extra boost? That CARES Act money was a total disaster. Why were we not in front of this, making sure that we had nonprofits that were receiving? Matter of fact, I have a client who I was working with who has a wonderful program, wants to start a shelter. But do you know how much red tape it is to get a nonprofit up and going in Savannah? The city of Savannah should be jumping at eradicating this problem. We have to. That bothers me. When we have these many camps and these many people who are homeless, hungry, that sends a signal that something's not right. So we've got to fix that issue, and we need to, again, bring people to the table who have the expertise, the knowledge, and the wherewithal to get these solutions out there for these folks.
Now, another thing, before I let you go, President Biden signed this infrastructure bill to deal with infrastructure, roads, bridges. When will that money come into effect?
Federal government moves a little slower, so I don't know the exact time.
Here's what I'm saying, though. I'm saying.
Yeah.
You mentioned a point in your discussion to me about transparency.
Mm.
So why the community is not told? So the president signed this infrastructure bill, and we have a better road, better programs, and terrible roads. But hopefully, we'll be having this money. They ought to have some knowledge and find out why, when.
Well, I totally agree. I totally agree. Even and I'll speak
You got some
on
terrible
that.
roads in Savannah, and the man that passed all the multi-billions of dollars of infrastructure.
Well, not only that, you just saw T-Splosh not do well, and that was, I'll be quite honest. Again, T-Splosh didn't do well because there was no real ideas behind it. The interesting thing with me in our community, we don't do a good job of infrastructure. For example, we knew years ago that the ports would be expanded, that we would have a booming film industry, so forth and so on, and yet we're just now looking at expanding certain roads. It's time, if we want to be futuristic, it's time we look at a very similar light rail system as Atlanta, a multi-county rail system that goes from here to Bullock all the way over to Liberty, back around to Chatham, and encompasses those counties.
Look at so that's an excellent example. And I tell you something else. I often want to say it. Savannah being a port city, we ought to be as big as New Orleans. And like you're saying, look at that common good that Atlanta has and all those kinds around.
Yeah.
Model going this way, going that way, working together as a unit. It takes leadership for that, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, and it takes having vision. I mean, I think a lot of times what I've noticed, and we have our 3 super ladies. Y'all know the 3. But sometimes I think, they have the greatest ideas, but if you don't allow them to present their ideas, then, again, we're stuck in the same system that we were as we started 4 years ago. And so what I'm saying is we've got to put our differences aside for the greater good of our community. And it takes, even though you may not care for them, listen to them. I've never seen 3 women that dedicated in my life. They are out in the trenches talking to people. I mean, I've seen these ladies put their own families on hold to make sure that they are engaged with the community. That's powerful.
Well, I think our leadership get more involved in the community and move around in these districts and find out just what the concerns of the community that they want to address, right, and work towards trying to find solutions to the problems that exist. Because you may be out there in city council up there and we got a terrible problem over here, and you don't ever move around, we never see you, you never engage the community. That's one thing I have against people representing people with the districts. Right now, I guarantee you, a lot of young men who have been released from prison have done the necessary time to be able to vote. Mm-hmm. But they don't know that because nobody who represents them in that district has had a meeting. I always say that. So we call them in at so and so and so. If you got out of service and you did certain prerequisites, then you could vote. So come to this meeting tonight and we will give you the instructions. That's helping the people.
Right. That's a good idea. Great idea, actually.
Well, I've been advocating that to several people. I never saw it happen yet.
Well, and anyway, it ties right into voter education. That's a big piece. We're looking at with the Chatham County Democratic Party Committee, is looking at voter education. That's a piece of it.
Well, I served on that committee. Too many things in Savannah I have not served on. And I'm on the national on the National Democratic Party. I'm a member of the National Democratic Committee. And I served on a committee years ago in Savannah, Chatham County Committee, along with Representative Clifton Jones and many others. So I really paid my dues in the community. And like I said, if I live next week, I'll be 89 years old. And I gave my whole life since 18 to the Savannah community, except the 2 years in the military.
Wow.
Well, all right, Brother Bryant. Look like I'm coming to the end here. It's been look at
yes, sir.
I want to speak to you on something about the fraternity. Give me your telephone number.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in the chat. Everybody about to get my.
Okay. Take my number and call me.
Nelly has it. Nelly.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I want everybody.
I want to discuss with you about. I want to discuss with you something about the fraternity. I'm serious.
Oh no, anytime.
Well, it's sure
I
been a
appreciate
pleasure to talk with you on the show tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm
Oh,
very
yeah.
happy to have had you on the show and discuss a lot of these issues. And I do like a lot of your ideas,
Well, thank
particularly with our representation of people getting involved in the community. Because after all, when you run for office, you run for office to serve the community.
That's right.
And if you don't have no backbone, you need to get out of there.
You ain't kidding.
If you don't have no backbone,
You ain't kidding.
you're in the wrong place. If you don't have no backbone.
Yes.
So it's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Same here.
And I'll be calling you because it's something I want to discuss with you with the fraternity that I think we should be doing.
All right. Let's chat. All right. Thank you
All right,
again.
Grant. Yeah, thank you for being on the show. And I hope that the community listen to you, and I hope to get some responses back. Thank you very much, and you'll be hearing from me.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, like I've come to the end of my show. Hopefully, I'll be having, if the Lord says so, next month, the show. But I want to show you one thing. Here's what I want you to do for me. Go out and vote for this man right here. Whether we win with the Cortez or Senate seat, and we have the controlling power in the Senate, we still need this man advice as a senator and the dignity that he brings. We do not want to be the laughing stock of the country. And you black folk who talk about the Herschel, about football, that's over years ago. We won't go out to the future for our children and unborn black children. So let's step up and do what we're supposed to do. So thank you for listening to the program, and God bless you. That's it.
I like that.